Microphone.
To adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, helps to be heard. So
I
we have a
moved to- I
motion by
moved to-
Mr. Lawrence. We have a second by Mr. Glavin. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 4-0 vote for the clerk. 5-0 vote for the clerk. The mayor's report.
No report.
Outstanding, Mr. Mayor. Council report, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. McGilvery.
No report.
No report. Mr. Shoemaker? No reports. Good. That brings us to the public agenda. We'll allot up to 45 minutes. If anybody wishes to speak, you have up to 3 minutes to say your piece. Just come to the front desk here. Be sure you're close enough to the mic to be heard. Sign in. The clerk will hit the timer, and you can say what you want to say for 3 minutes. Just a reminder, it's not a question and answer period. With that being said, is there anybody on my left, your right, that wishes to speak? Anybody on my right, your left, wish to speak? Anybody in the back, Sherry? No? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to the policy agenda. If the clerk would read that item, please.
To discuss the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
Thank you, Carrie. Okey-doke, Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mr. President. I want to make sure you have 2 pieces of paper, which is the revisions of what we talked about last week. It's a general fund combined statement, as well as just an overall look by our category of expenses and overall by department. Same format. We've changed the numbers and reevaluated a number of things, but incorporated a 3% as it applied to, and Diane and the whole group has been diligent in trying to make sure the raises we talked about with regard to $15 an hour were pushed up properly and not stepping on too many top of the income bracket or job brackets. And then the same thing with the rest of the police and fire and those things we talked about last time. Bottom line, we offset some of the increase. We revised the compensation schedule to fit to those raises that you asked us. Again, we looked at 5, but originally 3% we had a pretty good handle on. And, given the situation today, this represents a workable budget, but we must be vigilant in a lot of ways. As they're saying, we're, again, looking at the revenue picture of 74 without really a lot of movement. But we did a significant amount of cutting of the budget in the capital project or the capital outlay items. If you look at the bottom, the capital outlay column, it shows the bottom line of a reduction from all the departments totaling $1.72,494,000. Last week, that was a reduction in 1.269, so $500,000 or so is going to offset the 1.4 when you look at the personnel column, all right? And, those increases are spread through here, so bottom line, this is reflective of the $15 an hour matrix that we had to adjust, and again the fire department, police department items that we talked about last week. So, as it rolls forward, the difference up at the top in this big schedule has been reduced from the one we had last week. Again, $74,480,000 of 294 of revenues. That's pretty much unchanged. To 83,536, 856, but still leaves us $9 million difference. Okay? Any questions on what we tried to do with this set of data? Okay.
Just to be clear, these figures reflect a $15 minimum hourly rate.
And adjustment to the compensation schedule upward to maintain that to a certain point, okay?
Okay, we'll get to that certain point a little later. And also a 3% raise for everybody except the police department.
And those $15 an hour people.
Okay, so if I'm making $14.75 right now and I move to 15, that's it for me.
No.
It's going to go 3%.
Or 15, whichever's greater.
It's going to go, okay, we'll talk about that a little later. I just want to be sure I understood. Okay, let me open it up for questions here. Mr. Shoemaker, we'll start on this end. You're always the last one. We'll let you be the first one to offer questions.
Just, I think right now, just one question. The $15 an hour, that's still for around 103 employees?
About 105,
That's gonna affect-
105 employees. But it bumps up accordingly. If you're $14 and something cents, you're going to, and even a little bit above that. She can tell us the
Right,
details.
and I'm sure you were saying, I'm sorry, that it's $15 or 3%, whichever's greater. Okay, and that's for about the 105 employees?
Yeah.
Okay.
The 103, I think, 105 were the people at $13 and $13.65. So now they're at $15, period.
Right, and then everybody else, with the exception of the PD, police department, is going to be at the 3% for now?
Everybody else, period, inclusive that we're not applied by the new pay schedule there in PD, as well as the $15, which is in 4 departments.
Right, okay, that's all I have for now.
Mr. Glavin, anything at this time? You want me to come back to you?
I got a couple of things. Thank you. On non-departmental, what is the change in non-departmental?
We said we were trying to keep it to 1.9 million. I think about 90,000 difference, I think, is what we would strive to.
What was the main biggest expense to drive that 90,000?
We're not done even receiving all requests yet.
Okay, but as of now, it's 90,000 higher than last year in
Lower.
or lower.
We're trying
That's a good
About
thing.
90,000.
Fund balance, looks like beginning fund balance 10 million, ending fund balance is a little over $1 million, $1.4 million.
Right.
Is that concerning? Does that affect anything, bond ratings or anything
It shouldn't.
that we need to be aware of?
Again, as actuals fly by, we're not sure where we are with things that may be coming in August and September that we'll have to roll over and pay for, but that should be reflective in fund balance because we would not have paid for it. We won't have to, as far as the unrestricted reserves or something like that, we got to get through probably. Diana says, I think end of October, we'll be in a better position to see what October 1 looked like.
Okay.
Fair, Diana?
Thank you, Mayor. And then back to the compensation schedule and where we are with the adjustments. Is the administration comfortable that we can, if we can put something like this into effect, department by department is competitive up and down the coast with our municipal peers? Are we at the upper end?
I think we should be. I think we should be at the upper end.
So my point is, as we evaluate a department, we should evaluate those departments against the municipal peer group and not necessarily Public Works is higher or lower than Parks and Rec, and they got to be brought up to the same. We should evaluate them that they're even or at the upper end of our municipal peers.
Right.
And if we achieve that, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Again, let me throw this out. Again, we mentioned last week when we just did what we could do to kind of trim it at zero interest. I mean, at zero increase, other than the $15 in that thing. Then we applied the 3% as requested. This is a result of it. In January 23, everybody received about 5%. At the same time, in this budget, we applied almost 500 people, reinstated longevity, okay? That's also in this budget. That 500 or so employees that we did as a result of the lawsuit reflected about $500,000 in increase of that compensation. That increase, that $500,000, as well as another 60 or 70, which applies to almost everybody now, because some of them were not at 13 or 12 months worth of stuff. So that's reflective in that budget too. So that 3% is not counting that budget. So that whatever $120 or $240 that you get, whatever you get as we unfroze the longevity, that's in this budget also. Does that make sense? So I mean, there was $500,000 or so thrown at us in 23, now 24, and now 25.
And lastly, Mayor, on capital, and we had a discussion last budget meeting that perhaps we need to forego some capital expenditures if we're going to put some of these adjustments in compensation into effect.
Right.
And I understand that. My question is going forward. We have to make that commitment to compensation, not only this year, but the years that follow.
Right.
And if everything stays the same, we're going to be sitting there with $1.4 million in the general fund. How do we navigate the future on needs, capital needs, and the assets that we need for the various departments, whether it's police, fire, Parks and Rec, or Public Works? How we're going to navigate those waters to maintain our services and make sure we have equipment that
like we did in going through the police department with just for vehicles. Okay, there was an overall plan to have a turnover every 5 years. So we got 200 or so vehicles, and we bought some additional one last year, and or we were able to get some. I mean, I'm not sure, but we need a plan with life cycle and how old this particular vehicle is and how long do we expect it to be. And we've been driving some trucks for a long time. Community development's got a lot of vehicles, but we just have to suck it up, that we need to understand how we use these vehicles and how long we can expect out of it, and then plan accordingly. I know over the last 3 or 4 years, especially with the 21, 22, 23 downturn of everything, we were kind of stuck with the supply chain. But the way, as I said at the beginning of this exercise, this is doable in my mind. Again, she questions everything that I think of, but being vigilant is the main thing. And being, because we're going to have the same, this is almost the identical difference as we did in 24. But this is a different ballgame. You look around, look at the recession threats and interest and some of these other things are going to play a role. We just got to be week after week after week and project after project after project on how do we manage this. I think, I'm comfortable that we'll accomplish a lot with our employees, knowing that we're not on a limb. We went out on a limb. And we will, we'll make sure we're strong enough to go at the same time next year. This budget that we passed last year was about the same differential, and we wound up about the same, $1 million or so plus at the end of 1.7, I think, in 24. The 25 would be a little bit, but again, when the smoke clears, we'll stay on top of it. And again, I think Councilman Tisdale understands this is weekly. And, we look at it, I'm looking at the difference between revenues and expenses every week and what's, where we are with regard to, cash and so forth.
Well, my final comment is this, and obviously we're making a commitment to our biggest asset, and that is our people, our city employees. The directors are going to have the vision and the leadership to do more with less, and that's going to be challenging.
Well, in the past we did it with less people. I
understand.
I don't think that's not the time to do things like that have been done in the past, and then reinstating longevity and some of these other things that were done in order to come back out of that low. I think there were layoffs. Before us. Yeah. But that's one thing we'll never do. So we can do other things. This is again we've reduced $500,000 worth of things that have some justification, but we've got to do it. I think the employee is the most. I'm 600 or so people need to be at the top of the list, because, you know, we've, since 21, 2, and 3, and 4, here we are.
All right, those are my high-level comments, about the budget. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Clapp. Mr. McGilvery, anything? No, sir. Mr. Guines, you need another minute, or? Yeah, I need another. Okay, well, you're in luck. The man behind you is going to speak next.
You take all the time you want, Dad, I got it.
Mr. Lawrence, take your time.
Yeah, I do. I got a few questions. I still haven't figured out. We moved $11.7 $11,700,000 with the revised budget. So the 11.7 was it spent, or is that money?
What number are you talking about? Where are you?
This is from the past. I'm trying to get all this stuff. We got 10 million moves here, 11.5 over here, and we done spent 9,000 million more than we have. So I'm trying to figure out where all these numbers, what they relate to.
Okay. The number,
First
you-
one, 11.782.
it's not on this sheet? Okay, she'll address it. But
Diana said something that came from the money we supposed to get back for the pandemic. We should have got 2 checks of
We did,
$5.5
and
million
that's
each.
what that 11 million represents for capital. That was the plan last year. And then throughout the year, we recognized some of it as general fund revenues, and that's why there's an adjustment. Plus, the transfers do not occur until the actual money is spent, but the budget reflects everything that we thought could be spent in that fiscal year.
Okay, you transferred, so what do you have left that you actually have? Of the 11.7, you still have the whole 11.7?
No, it's like 9.5 million almost.
That's what you actually have left from, so from the 11.7, you roughly have 9.5 left.
Well, yeah,
Well, whatever, I mean, okay. On this other column, that's, you moved, 2 million. And this, I'm using this thing here,
yeah,
from the first time you give me these sheets.
this,
So I'm trying to figure out,
combined
this
fund.
is another one, it was like another couple $1 million, so where did that come from?
That 8.5 went to 10.5. That's probably at the top of the list.
No, this is,
What's your bottom line number?
bottom number is 55 million. And it was like 2,274,000. So I'm trying to figure out, we moved all this money, we still have the money, or we spent it?
55 million.
I said, I was just 11 million, they got 9 points.
55 million represents year-to-date as of 7/10.
Okay, so the 2 million you took out of, what happened with it? 2.7. To drop it down to 55 million. So we put that where?
The 55 million represents actual revenues through 7/10. It's just an indicator to compare where we are to budget.
Yeah, I knew it was excuse me, I'm talking to the mic, sorry.
Which one?
The top number was 56 million, so we took the 2.2 million out of there. So I was just saying, where that 2.2 million as of today? So it's down to 55 million. So we spent that money, or we having a capital project?
Haven't received it.
The 2.2 million in transfers, yes, we've spent that money.
You spent that money.
Right, but a transfer could go to capital projects, it could go fund the baseball maintenance fund. It's a combination of items, but the majority of that is the ARPA money.
So all that money spent, so that's, we
Correct.
did with that, okay.
Correct.
That's, just need to find out. And on this sheet here, we moved 10 million. So this 10 million is, we spent this 10 million, or we had this 10 million?
The 10 million up at the top,
Right here on the bottom, right here.
That's a transfer below.
It says, transfer to capital projects.
right, that was last year. That's in that 11 million that you're asking about.
So you deal with the same numbers here again.
Right, because
Okay.
it's just a different format, but for
Yeah,
prior
that's pretty kind
period.
of confusing here, because I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out where we had this much money, or we don't have this much money. So that would, when you do that, that's why you went up to 9.5 that you said. On the bottom right here, it says 9 million,
Right,
so that's money we still have that hadn't been spent. Is that correct? Okay. And I know we kept asking last week, the mayor, about the moving everybody up 5%. Did you run a number with the 5% in it? The 1, 2, or you'd have to add the 1.2 million back to this number, the 83 million?
3% plus.
No, I know that I'm asking you, because we kept saying about 5%, and I was just wondering if you run a number with the 5% increase for the certain employee. Not all employees, same thing. So I didn't know if you'd add the 1.2 million back anyway in there, so we could look at that as a council, what the 5% would
I
reflect.
understand. First of all, that 3% caused a lot of computation as well as in the compensation schedule. And again, the net may be $700,000-800,000 more, but there's a lot of operational effort to figure out what we have to change as far as somebody breaking into a bracket or somebody that gets this 5% is over the top of some of these other, other employee compensation. We did not do 5%. We did 3%. Because I think
All you did was the 3%.
3% across the board and changed compensation so it didn't step on one grade to the other, or one step to the other. Is that fair?
Okay. And I looked at this number, was 83.5, so I figured I had to, if we did 5%, it'd be like 1.2 million more, so it'd be 84.8, something like that. Because you roughly said it's about 600,000 a percent, so that's why I was just looking to see what it would look like here.
Yeah.
And then another one I had a question on is this number here. We got revenue of 74 million and expenses of 83 million. I mean, 83. So we were 9.5, over 9 million in the hole.
Right.
Okay, have we spent any of this money? How we wind up with 9 million if we didn't have the money?
This is budget.
I know.
And if this is budget figure, if we do spend all of that, and if we do receive all of that, the difference would be 9 million. That would come out of the 10 million we estimated as far as fund balance going in October 1.
So this is just,
But let me say this about that. This time last year, okay, when we went through this exercise, we estimated a beginning cash balance of 9.6 million. The difference was actually 7,850,000. It left us with 1.749 cash. And, that was a guess, like this is a guess. Okay? But if we're guessing that we're going to be at 10.5, where we were guessing we would be at the beginning, 9.6.
yeah.
So,
I know it's just projected numbers. That's
Yeah.
the budget's set up like that.
but it's about $1 million difference in the displacement of revenues and expenses as it was last year. We had more expenses than revenues, like we do this year.
Okay. And on the other sheet, with the employees and that, we had like, the other day, we had 48 empty spots, roughly $2 million. You left that in the budget or you took it out?
Except for fire department, I think we trimmed.
Say that again?
Except for the fire department, we actually reduced 6% so we can, 7 positions? Yeah. Yeah, but we left, 11, Chief, in your 11? And we did not trim those vacancies. Well, you can see in one of those, we had a few vacancies. We actually reduced positions. You can see the change in the red. That's what we reduced positions. So there's a handful of vacancies, throughout the rest of this.
Through the
Rest of it, yeah.
there's
10,
vacancies? Oh,
10.
Probably more than
More than that? Okay.
And the other
But,
question,
and again, we're creating those vacancies every day, but new positions, there'd be another, we could trim more if we needed to. And again, but we got a lot of services that we need to perform either through employees or through contracts. And maybe one play is to, get through a number of months and see how we can convert vacancies into contracts and I don't know, but basically, let me repeat, this is something that I feel by being vigilant and being on top of these numbers daily, that we can manage this proposed budget with the increases and with the reductions that we've done.
that's what we do. We're supposed to work together, do the best we can for the city. You put the numbers up and then we tell you if they're good or bad.
Yep.
It's kind of like the old saying, You set the plates and we bring the fork and knives and that.
Who said that?
That's another brilliant statement. Another thing, you went back on the longevity to 500,000.
That's still in.
Right, hasn't it been in there for 3 years or?
No, first year.
This is the first year.
Second year. Second year.
Last year was 500,000 also in the budget?
Yeah.
So we're just doing the same thing that we did last year?
That's still in the budget, plus we're gonna get another, about 60 or 70,000 on top of that? Almost 600,000 this year.
Okay.
That's in addition to the percentages we're talking about.
Yeah, I know, that's just something different. But I just want to, because I thought we'd already had it in the budget last year.
It was frozen. It was frozen. And as a result of the lawsuit, we reinstated it, and I think that was October 1, wasn't it? Of
And
20.
then that's all due this year, so you put 600,000 roughly in there.
It's all in there. Yeah.
All right, and, on these employees, they changed again, on this sheet I guess you just give us. We have 648 for, I guess that's 25, and we had 646.
641 for 25. What I'm saying. No, I'm sorry.
Right here, right?
641?
640. Huh? So,
641.
and I know the other day when I asked
That one right there?
our CPA how many was on the insurance, she said we had 570 people on our insurance program. And that number's still true?
Well, it changes every day.
Well, I know, that's why I'm asking you this every day. That's why we had these meetings.
570 or so.
Well, we need to know, because
I
we're
don't
getting
test it
ready
every
to meet
day.
again tomorrow about the insurance. So we need, I'm just trying to find out, because we need that when we bring that to SI, how many people we actually have still left in the
Open
program.
enrollment, the number could change.
I mean, so when people quit or they left or something since last week?
Well, every day someone becomes eligible for insurance. It depends on date of hire, and then people have life events that change it.
So you talking about we add people to it?
Yeah, you can add people, take it
Okay, then we
away.
need to know, we do that, because us three need to know that.
We're still about 580 into the insurance pool.
Okay. Because that makes a difference on some of the prices we have to set. Let me see, and did, I know Chief Miller said we needed 30 more patrolmen, because we got so much overtime's $1.5 million, and if we hired 30 new patrolmen, it'd be $1,449,000. Is it possible to hire 30 at one time, or is that impossible? To eliminate the overtime?
I don't think it's 30.
I mean, could we spend that money on full-time employees? It's better than paying overtime, so. It's pretty much the same, it'd be a wash, you know?
Chief, your mic on?
Press that. Take this one, Steve. There you go.
So at the present time, what is roughly you could actually hire, like, and train them? 6, 8, 10? And what's the most you could do at one time?
We could probably, thank you. We could probably train 10 at a time if we could hire that many.
Yeah. So I was just saying, because like you said, I mean, that's $1 million paying in overtime.
But,
Right.
you
If we didn't have to do that,
Based on this, I mean, it's more, with this budget, it's more possible to make those steps. I mean.
But that's what we're hoping. I mean, it certainly worked with dispatch. You know, we raised the pay in dispatch, and for the first time, we have 7 applicants, you know, trying to get a job in dispatch. Now, we haven't had that in years. So we think that the pay increase, I think what you'll see is that like we were before, you'll see a lot of people
and that's
trying to come to Biloxi.
That's a patrolman 3. That's the entry job, right? For a
It
patrol-
is, unless they have experience, then they come in as a patrolman too, if they've got 2 years' worth of experience somewhere else.
Could you say that about, you had 30 more people, you wouldn't really pretty much eliminate the overtime?
Well, it wouldn't eliminate it, but it would
No,
certainly.
but it would cut it down, so instead of billing you $1.5 million.
Yeah,
you could hire 30, say 20 people, I don't care what you ever hire, it would save money, and had the people working for you.
But I think the weekends, a possibility of having off on weekends is what's even more significant.
That's certainly going to stop us from losing people that we're, at the rate we're losing them right now. So it's going to be interesting to see once the pay rate is in place, how many people apply to us, and we may eliminate any vacant positions at that time, and then we'll work towards trying to get as many positions as we can so that people can have their weekends off instead of working all the time. So it's twofold.
Yeah.
The quality of life with not working all the time, and then a new pay scale. Those are the two things that we hope are going to.
So you said you had,
Jump in too. I mean, the number of events have been more and more and more every year. And it's not just PD, it's fire department, and public works in every phase. So that requires overtime and working on the weekends. And I think this position with what we've done, or this, not just PD, but everybody, makes that a little bit, less stressful on your personal life and in your life in general.
Sure it does. Absolutely.
so like, you get ready to train 7 people roughly? That you said applied?
For dispatch, yeah. So
Oh, that's dispatch, not patrolman.
that's dispatch.
Okay, that'd be 7 more dispatcher.
Yes, sir.
That's a tough job there too, that's 12 hours,
It is.
okay, I was just,
Can you, talking about employee counts, can I just ask a quick clarification?
say again?
Can I ask a quick clarification?
Sure.
Quick clarification question, since you're asking about employee counts. I'm looking at these numbers right here, employee counts, and then dropping down to port and the water department. Do we have to add those numbers back to those group of numbers? Where is it in those numbers? Where are those, the 35 and the 28?
That's in water and sewer department and also the port authority, the Biloxi Port Commission.
by themselves.
They're by themselves. That's
They're
enterprise.
by themselves, but that's in addition, so that's
Add
still,
that
you got to add it back.
Our total count includes all of them, but up top is only the general fund.
The top number is general fund, and then the port and water is the additional enterprise fund, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that, Mr. Lawrence, because you got to add those numbers to the water and department and the port department. How much? So that's 704 employees.
Yeah. So you add back,
Yep,
63, huh?
yep, 704 total employees if you add those back.
That'd be
Thank you,
100.
Mr. Lawrence.
So we had 711, correct? You had 63 to 648,
Yep, 700 and something.
yeah, 711. And then you said we only had 570, say 600 on the insurance. Okay. And we always need more everything, but do we have too many people in some of the departments? We used, in the port, we always ran with like about 20, 21 people in the port.
Well, I mean, that's an evaluation. I think talking about an operations kind of research question, and can people do things differently, and maybe possibly reduce some of those numbers. But certainly, it's 60-something% of the ball game is related to employees. So, and we don't want to give up any functionality or capability that we'll need by reducing just to reduce people, but we want to make sure that we're doing as best we can in each department, each division, each section.
Yeah, I just know a lot of them, and some of them, we need a lot of people that work hard, that do the hard job.
Yeah.
We seem to have a problem keeping them, but we seem to have a lot of secretaries. That's why we're trying to figure out, do we have too many secretaries?
Administration, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
not just, all of them, not just the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we need people out there, like David always saying, cleaning them ditches, and that's the bad job, tough job. That's hard, so I appreciate going to 15. I tell you, I don't like 16, but I mean, whatever we can do, we'll do. But I mean, we gotta keep people that cut the grass, clean the dishes, and do the hard labor. I don't care what city it is, you gotta have laborers. Everybody can't sit in the office.
Yeah.
I know we got, the other one I was gonna ask you about, you have 30 people in the court system. Is that 30 full-time people? in the court system? According to your number, we had 30 people in the court system.
Two judges and
Two judges and the rest of,
city prosecutor.
and one prosecutor and the defense person too, huh?
But there's only 15. I don't know where he gets 30.
The others are contractors, more or less, correct? Judges, prosecutors.
Yeah, but they're not in the counts. The city prosecutor is paid through payroll,
Okay, you got
and
15
the
in
two
the
judges are paid through payroll, and then 13 work in the court.
Whole thing, okay. Thank you.
So I guess the other question I need to find is simply $9 million over budget. What created the new $9 million?
The difference?
Yes, I know we raised the salaries and stuff like that, but that wasn't 9 million. So what was the cost that the budget wound up 9 million over budget?
Well, again, the increase plus another, taking that longevity, it's $2 million more than we did it last year at this time. And it's related, but we did reduce some of that overall by reducing some capital items. Okay? So basically, you got 2 million more in personnel services than you had last year when you look at the whole thing.
So our personnel runs about 70% of the budget, 65 to 70%.
63%.
Yeah. I mean, I would just roughed it out like that. So I mean, that's you got it, the employees. That's the big thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I said last time, and this is reflective of the concentration that we need to have. Keep our employees engaged and enthusiastic about coming to work every day.
Yeah. So 74 million in revenue, the money that's over paid to employees, that's all been dedicated to spend somewhere else? You're talking about probably maybe roughly 30 million. That's over in revenues that we take in.
And these other.
So it's applied to,
And capital items and contractual services. In this figure, I think we had, is it 4.7 for utility authority in now?
Yeah.
4.7 million of that difference is, comes from solid waste. 4.4. So, as well as, but it's offset in this capital item. You see $2 million in the capital item. Well, that's offset down below in that combined statement. But that's a fire truck that may come in or may not come in. But we got to account for it, as far as.
my question, I guess, I know we have two bonds on the table, the 14 million for the road, and you put 20 million in the road. Right. Then you have 5 million for the other one.
Yeah, for
that you're spending.
The fire for the fire station as well as the building that we moved out of on that. So
Do you have any active bonds other than an M2?
we got some 19. What's left?
We have some 19.
19 money.
So that was the last one before, was the 2019?
And 17 was it?
We don't have any 17.
No, just 19. Yeah.
So what is our major projects in the city of Biloxi that we actually paying for? Not FEMA and MEMA, not Harrison County, that we putting all the money up, but not bond money. That we actually, from the revenues that we taking in,
Well,
which money we actually spending ourselves in the city?
There's a number of projects that have multiple funding sources, and our next place is to go through this detail by detail. I don't think we really went into the projects that are ongoing. We got about 40 projects cooking right now. 40. The main hitters, again, that we put 7 million of our own money plus some of the 19 money into getting the Pops Ferry extension done. Okay, that's 22 million all in. That includes 3.8 million of projects that were requested by the Coliseum. Okay, so we've got that spread over about 4 or 5, but we'll go that in detail in the next go around. Again, the buildings as well as just a number of projects. I can't tell you all of them, but there's about 600, 700,000 come out of the general fund balance.
I know we just passed,
Some of the items, I think that's what it is.
we passed the bill for the 20,780,000 for the road extension. I knew 7 million come from the 14 million.
Yeah, we got a number of 2 million from the county.
Right.
some from MDOT, some from some of the older, the 2020 Gulf Coast Restoration. So we assemble that. There's about 6 sources there.
Yeah, I knew that, I'm just trying to figure,
A number of projects,
I'm just saying that we actually, the city has to do our project, not involve with anybody else.
Well, we
That's
got
what I'm
enough-
trying to find out.
part of the capital projects is a number of, paving money that we allocated across the city, which comes out of, general and some other things. Community, but that was part of a bond too.
Yeah, I knew that the 14 million,
I can get you that next go-around, we'll have that ready to spread and to kind of tell you what we're expecting to deliver this year, what we have to budget this year so we can get it, down the road. But the biggest hitter is the Pops Ferry extension.
yeah, I mean, it was,
Yeah, as well as the 15 million or so that we put up, 3 out of $50 million road, the bridge repair, $15 million to do it, and $3 million of it is ours. Right?
so that's the bridge, that's replacing the middle of the draw.
Yeah,
Is that,
rehabbing the bridge, yeah.
that's 15 million, but we put up the whole 15 million?
3, we put up 3 million, MDOT came with 12. Matching, and there's a number of other matching things, I think, that we've done. I can't tell you, I can answer in detail at our next go-around.
Anything with MDOT's got to match.
Yeah.
All right, y'all can jump in. I'll check out some more.
There's no more water left to jump in. You used it all. Mr. Guines, any questions? All right. Did you have anything, Felix? Not really. Okay.
I just want to thank you for the 3% to make sure that, our employees got.
Right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Guines. Mr. Shoemaker.
Just a couple of quick questions. I know at this point, all the departments have submitted their budgets for the next year, but we've already kind of gone through and removed different items from those budgets. That includes anything from the contractual expenditures as well. So all that's been looked at. Okay. Thank you. The total number, with including the 3%, the pay raise for the $15 pay raise, all that, do we have a number what that cost? What that'll?
You're looking at column, it's called proposed change in personnel services there, it's 1.402.
So but that's the total for everything, that is. And I apologize.
Personnel,
Yeah, for personnel.
And the increase in longevity and all of that's all wrapped in there.
Okay, that is it. Then I just
That's a
struggle
change-
sometimes reading
Change
these.
from 24 to 25, is with an additional 1.4 million. You see,
The additional 1.4.
you see the change, it's in yellow, 1.402.
Yes, thank you. And lastly, Director Geiser, I know y'all removed 7 positions, but what does that bring a total to the number of firefighters you have now?
There we go. So that is 1 office position, and 6 we're referring to as they were going to add them into this upcoming budget year. We went ahead and took them out. So that would put us at 175 from me down, anybody that's a certified firefighter.
Okay, 175, and that's minus those other positions.
You might mention too, the new position we call lieutenant in that mix too. So there's 12 of those within this structure.
Right, we did
In
discuss that
in
one.
that 175, it'll shuffle around in 12 new lieutenant
For the
positions.
lieutenants, I've got the notes on that as well. That's all I had. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. I have a few things. First of all, it really would help to get these handouts 48 hours before. I ask for that every year. I asked for that last week.
Well, again, we made changes at 10 o'clock this morning.
Well, I understand that, but it puts the council at a disadvantage. I like to evaluate this stuff. I keep my own spreadsheets, you know that. It's interesting to track this history, so I'm sitting here. It's hard for me to digest when I'm listening to all the discussions going on. So it would help to have them 48 hours before, Monday morning at the earliest. I mean, that would be the respectful thing to do.
Let me say this about that, the primary differences between what you had last time, well, I apologize, we provided without the 3% in those other positions. I do, we could have had the 3%, but the difference, would have been, 1.408 versus, 1.402, as well as, the reduction to, capital. Those are the primary, the inside didn't change that much, but we could have done that, and I do, with respect.
Well, it would just be, so if we have any handouts for next week, can we get them Monday morning? Could you email them to us? The other thing is, I think it would be great to use that screen on the wall when we do a presentation, just to show the world so everybody here can follow along, but also with 6 folks looking at 6 different things, points of interest or whatever, we're not always looking at the same thing, and it's hard to follow these things. It would just be more orderly, and everybody could follow along, me included, but also the folks that have been out there at this workshop. I'm pushing for $40,000 in the fire department budget for certifications. I don't believe that's included in that now, is it? I'd like to make a note of that. Carrie, if you would, just make a note. I'd like to see that added. That's up to you whether you add it or.
Incentives for certifications? Is that what you-
For certifications, would that cover it? Yeah, EMS, basic, EMS, advanced, paramedics. I think there might be another 1 or 2 in there, but
Okay,
Well, tuition reimbursement, and I thought that's what they did it from.
I don't know, tuition reimbursement, was that?
No, do you not use tuition reimbursement for certification?
Well, we use tuition reimbursement to get the certification and maintain certification, but that is not an incentive pay. We're trying to get an incentive pay added into or holding those advanced positions, because there's no reason to really get them. Okay,
It's not in
That's not in the budget.
right.
We'll
That's the ones that we're losing right now to
we'll see what's doable. Okay, let's move to 52.
We talked about being 9 million. No, we didn't say.
right. Yeah, we're losing them to the county and those more advanced.
So we're trying to grow the pool of these certified firefighters,
Or at least hang on to them, yeah.
or hang on to what we have. So if they complete the course, and my understanding is they pay for that course themselves, some of the tuition helps to offset some of that, but I know. Well, the mayor won't fix it, so.
So we utilize the tuition reimbursement when they go to Gulf Coast.
Right.
A lot of times, especially with the paramedic level, they come out of pocket themselves because of things that Gulf Coast requires them to buy, uniforms, different books, things like that.
Sure.
It typically becomes about a 35.
Okay.
Incentivize them to stay, and then maintain that certification.
Right, once they get that certification, then this incentive, whatever that amount is going to be, would be part of their annual pay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, and
so.
if they get rid of that certification, then they lose it just like anything else.
Sure. Of course, the other side of that coin is as they get these certifications, they're more attractive to other entities that might hire them and pay them more.
Yes, most of the other coast departments, including the county, pays very well. It's about a $2 increase on their hourly wage at the
Right.
county, so it amounts to a good bit. Most other departments, neighboring departments, do some kind of incentive pay for paramedic and advanced.
Exactly. Just, you might probably have a better feel for this than I do. The pay in the fire department, competitive with our neighbors? Are we lagging in some areas?
If you look at just your base pay, yes, we're competitive. D'Iberville's a little bit better. Gulfport's a little bit worse, so we're right there. I don't know what their benefits look like. I know a lot of times our benefits, all depending on how you look at the insurance. You know, they come out as far as what's coming out of pocket. You know, at one time, a lot of guys remember back in the early 2000s, and I know it's a long time ago, 20 years ago, we were the top paid in the state. So a lot of guys remember that. So they'd like to get back to that at some point where we're not having to bring in so many green guys, what we call them, like brand new off the street, and spend 5 months of certifying them.
Do you get many laterals, or?
No, not anymore.
We used to at one time because the pay was better though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. I believe that's it. Our next budget workshop, we don't have a council meeting next Tuesday, but I think we should have another budget workshop next Tuesday at 1:30. And Mayor, if you could, I had asked also, it'd be nice to have a schedule, calendar more or less, of when we're meeting and what the topics are for those meetings. I didn't receive that, but I'd appreciate that if we could get that so we know what to expect, as well as some of those folks who are attending here today.
I think, let me.
Go ahead.
My idea is to give you a capital projects kind of distribution and have a chance to have some discussion on what we're doing with the monies that they're coming from different flavors, and you know, what's going to happen. And then probably non-departmental would be a good place to do that next week.
So next week we're looking at capital projects
And non-departmental, and if there are any
and
questions,
non-departmentals.
if you can communicate any questions that you would have between now and then with regard to what you're absorbing here, we'll make sure we can answer that too.
Who will notify those folks that want to be included in the non-departmental budget or be considered?
We'll look into it.
Well,
I'm not sure which request.
I mean, we just need to know who to notify to let them know that they'll be here.
Okay.
Question there following the action.
Go ahead, George. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
On the top one, it's the water sewer, you're negative $1.7 million. How'd you drop $1.7 million in the water department? That's the sheet you just gave us. $1,796,000. That's a big drop.
What he's referring to.
What sheet you're looking at?
This is the one y'all just give us. Right here.
Reduction in water department.
I have 1.9.
Say again.
It's 1.9?
It says 1.795, 1.795 negative. So you dropped the budget from 20 million to 18 something. That's a lot of dropping in that department, $1.7 million.
It's mainly in the capital line item.
Is it what?
In the
The
capital item.
Capital.
Okay.
This right here?
Yeah, I see that, but I mean, that's still a lot to drop. And my other question is on the bottom, you got these debt services for the water. These are bonds,
Yes.
600,000, both of them are bonds.
They're water bonds with the state, or water loans with the state.
So what will we actually have for the port? What does the port got 600-something thousand that we're paying on that one?
519 on debt service?
It's, yeah, the debt
We
service.
have port bonds.
It's 522, now it's 519.
It dropped, yeah, a little bit. The port bond.
We have
issue.
port bonds.
I know. What
That's the debt service for the port
what are we
bond.
doing with that money?
All of it's
What,
spent, but a
what
million.
would we do with it? Evidently, it's been in place.
I'll let you answer.
Point Cadet Marina West.
Yeah.
As an example, we just did 200.
76,000.
You'll see in today's agenda, a $276,000 invoice for repairing 3 of the piers down in the
Point
in the
Cadet.
harbor.
Yeah. That collapsed. That collapsed.
That's an
But-
example of where that water money's going.
Right, so that, this is a grant or these are bonds?
Bond.
These are bonds. So you're using this money out of, the 270-something out of this bond?
Yeah, that's a debt service on the bond. Right? No, not that money. The 276 is the Voorhees that's on the agenda today, is what
Right.
you're talking about.
That-
Fixing a collapsed a finger pier.
All right.
That 276, I think, was Scott County millage. Bond. Should have been out of the bond.
And the other one I never did see anywhere listed,
Didn't know we,
is the property insurance. Where is that actually listed at on here?
Administration.
We paid about 3 million in property insurance last year.
Administration line. In the 8 point, what was it, 406?
8.3.
8.3 million, that's where the property insurance is. About 2 million. 2.6. 3.5 million. So that see the very top, administration proposed 8,305,139. That's where
Administration?
property insur- Yeah, in that department. That's where the property insurance is.
Just 3.8, 3.
And that's
So you
where
got 3 million down
That's where
here.
and that's where all the software and our technology is too, instead of in each department. Everything within the technology arena, none? Where is it?
It's in each department.
So that's $9 million total.
Oh, we did it. Okay.
That's it. You got me this here, right?
Can we move on to the next topic, or are you still on?
That's it.
You done? Okay. So, Mayor, at what point will we get to hear from, or see, or speak with, or question the department heads?
We can do that next week too.
You might.
Okay.
That's where I got this one from.
729, this is 86.
Okey-doke. So if it costs $600,000 per 1% increase in personnel cost, right, when we raise
The newest one.
salaries, that's a figure we're using roughly, right? Okay. So right now, the budget you've given us reflects a 3% increase.
That's property insurance.
Is longevity, if Mr. Glavin's getting a 3% increase, is that in addition to next year's longevity, or does that include Mr. Glavin's longevity?
Longevity is separate, but it will be extended.
Okay.
And these figures, the longevity hits this year at 600.
Right, it'll be a full year, and I think you said that, that added 2 million? Did you say that earlier? Did I understand that correctly?
Me in general, but it's 600,000 this year for the bumps to longevity.
Okay, so that's what it costs for longevity, okay.
I think that touches about 577 people right now in this budget versus 400 something in the prior year budget, which total will be about 500,000 last year, about 600,000 this year, inclusive of these numbers.
Okay.
So if you look at that, that's about 1%, bump.
So next year, we're anticipating 704 employees total, and this year, we've got roughly 700. Is that correct? In water and sewer and port? And there are some who are new in their first year. They didn't qualify for any longevity. Okay.
Is that about October? Was it October, Diana?
You have to be employed by 9:30.
By 9:30.
Okay. So what did we say, did I understand correctly, the cost total for a 3% increase and the $15 floor, did I hear, is this accurate, 1.4 million? And that also included the longevity?
And PERS.
And PERS, thank you, Diana.
Yeah. And whatever insurance we.
Okay. So if we're talking 600,000, so if we're talking 600,000 per 1% increase, 3% would be 1.8 million? All right, 3 times 600,000, but we're only looking at an increase of 1.4 million. So what I'm getting at is, I don't think everybody's getting the 3%. And it's, I believe your explanation was with the $15 minimum floor, those folks, if you got 15, if you went from 13.75 or whatever it is to 15, that's your raise. You don't get anything more than that, that's your raise. And then if you're in the pay band above that, you're going up something. We don't know what that is, you know, but we don't know. So, and maybe that may go up, what, just 1 or 2 pay bands? Is that the ripple effect, or does it go higher than a couple of pay bands? Am I making myself clear, or no, not really? So,
It touched like 4 or 5.
4 or 5 pay bands. So everybody in those pay bands, say if it touched 4 or 5 and 4 or 5 up the line, are they getting a full 3%?
It actually touched 7.
Touch 7. So are all of those, so I can't remember where we start, what the first pay band is, pay band, whatever it is, 1, 10, I don't know where we started.
If the 3% gave you more money than your grade increase, you got 3%.
Okay. All right. Anybody get less than 3%?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Well, there is a handful of, let me take that back. There are a handful of people that are getting nothing because they just had substantial pay increases, whether they were promoted or just hired, yes.
Okay. Bless you, Mr. Leonard. We have a paramedic standing by if you need one. Okay. So, I'm sorry, that just triggered another question. How many employees got a pay bump this year based on their supervisor's recommendation?
I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I don't do that part.
We can find out.
Right now, was there anybody, did anybody get a pay bump this year? I mean, we have no way of knowing that. Who gets them annually?
What do you think? I don't know.
Okay, yeah, Diane, if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, that would be interesting. By department, how many employees got a pay bump?
That pay bump is, again, that 3% does not apply to that bump.
So if I got a pay bump anytime during this year, I'm not getting the 3%, or is it since January, or, I mean, let's say I got a pay bump November 1st. Am I getting that 3% for next year?
How it's calculated, yes, the cutoff is 7/1.
So, all right, so anybody after 7/1, if they get a pay bump, then they're not getting the 3%
That's
next year.
correct.
Well,
Okay.
keep in mind, in the fire and police department, we have automatic.
Right, they have,
Right, that's the exception.
right, they have
to-
right, that's the
Right.
exception to the rule, and, I could ask the question 9 different ways
Still
because we
follow.
have all these exceptions.
Right.
Okay. And we're looking at personnel reductions projected in administration, we'd have 1 less employee in the administration department. Is that accurate?
It was a vacant position that I eliminated,
a vacant position.
It was in
That-
my department.
Okay. So, in Parks and Rec, we're adding a position. Do we know which division?
It was a janitor.
A janitor, okay. And then the police department, we're losing 3 positions. I'm assuming they're civilian positions?
John and I still need to talk about his budget a little more.
Okay, thank you. Fire department, we're losing a position. I would assume it's a civilian position. Okay. Public Works, we're losing a position. What position are we losing there? Or it's not determined
I
yet?
can't answer that off.
Okay. Engineers staying the same, okay. And I don't know if anybody here can answer this question. What's the average number of vacancies we have each month? I would assume HR tracks that, and it could be 60 one month, it could be 23 one month, because people are constantly coming and going, but does anybody track that?
HR HR knows. I can report,
Well,
call him and know 5 minutes from
the
now.
wrong one.
It's not that critical, it's just, I think somebody should track that. The next thing is for those vacancies that are out there, whether they average 20 a month or average 40 a month, or the range could be 10 one month and 53 the next month. Those are positions that are budgeted, correct?
Right.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to have crews out working weekends mowing grass, because they, there are vacancies in their departments, so there's still money to be spent
Right, that would also,
if needed.
right, that would also be money that could be used to hire contractors to cut more grass. That I mean, we're just having a tough time. This comes up every year. I won't belabor the point. It's just if,
It's grass.
beg your pardon?
It's August, it's grass month.
Right, but in my opinion, we need to do a better job of knocking it down. If we have to hire contractors, I don't know, and I know that we contract to have some city parcels,
72 parcels.
72 of them. Is there any reason we couldn't add more? For example, I know that there's a certain location in the city with the community that's identified, and nobody's sure who cuts that, but it's city property. I mean, a spot like that, couldn't that be contracted out to this particular contractor who's mowing the other 72 parcels?
We could add other contractual services. That's where it would be billed, other contractual services.
Right, okay. So let me go back to the 2019 general obligation bond. We still have money that's unspent, correct? In that bond. What's taken so, I mean, we borrowed the money in 2019, here we are 5 years later. We seem to have a lot of needs. Why do we still have money we borrowed 5 years
I
ago?
think
Why hadn't that been spent for stuff?
I don't have that.
Well, in some cases, it's money that's encumbered. In other words,
Our
we've
contract.
signed a contract, to a design contract, for example, for the harbor. Just signed a contract, let's say for $250,000, and the design contract's not complete yet. So we've only paid 200. There's still
Sure.
50 out there that it's encumbered. We can't get to it.
Sure, so some of that money that's encumbered has been encumbered for 4 years,
No, some of those
3 years, 4 years?
contracts were just being written. Some,
Okay, so I understand the recent encumbrances, and I'm assuming those are recent encumbrances, I'm assuming, but it seems like,
Some of that 19 money for that was, for 3 years ago, we started that with regard to the Pops Ferry extension, and that's been 4 years in coming too.
right, so we borrowed it in 2019, and we allocated some of that in a project that began in
About the years,
2021.
yeah.
Okay,
Let me answer your question on this weekly thing that I do. I have a
Right.
column that.
Yes, sir.
We were trying to read this. No vacancies in administration, no vacancies in executive, none in legal, 2 in community development, 4 in parks and recreation, 28 in police department, 9 in the fire department, 12 in public works, and 1 in engineering. And,
how many does that total, Mayor? roughly?
let's see.
I couldn't hear that
57.
fast, but you're a math wizard.
Well, hold on, it's arithmetic. Let me do this. 30 point.
Just, it's beside the point, I'm picking at you.
50-something.
Because I love you, okay. So that particular month, at that point in
week.
time, we had 50 vacancies.
Yeah, throughout the whole deal, yeah.
Right, so at the end of the year, just historically, we've had anywhere from 900,000 in some instances to 2.4, 2.5 million. That was budgeted but unspent, or some of that might have been spent for other contractual services, as Mr.
Must
Leonard
have been some budget amendments to do that.
explained. Okay, I think what may be my last question, mercifully, is what would it cost to add another 2% to that 3% raise for everybody? If we're using 600,000 as a rough figure, it would be, for another 2%, it'd be another 1.2 million.
I don't know, we'll calculate that.
Can you find another 1.2 million?
I don't think so. I mean,
Or can the council help you find that 1.2
Well,
million?
I don't know, if divine intervention and some other things that may come in, but You know, again, we could have calculated that and complicated, you know, the situation with regard to where we have to stretch this. 'Cause it really would be, I think this is reasonable, manageable with, you know, paying attention to it. You know, we can guess, you know.
Well, where you want to stretch it may not necessarily be where the council wants to
Right, I
stretch it.
understand.
Okay?
I mean, you know, this is
I'm
my
not gonna,
shot.
I'm not gonna ask about the fitness equipment at Pennzoil.
Oh, you can ask about that.
No, I don't want to ask
No,
about that.
I'm glad you did.
I don't want to ask about
No,
that.
this
I'm
is-
not asking about that, but I'll listen.
Okay. Basically, in the budget, and it was one of the areas that Parks and Rec we got together, and there's probably $160,000 of that was in the capital project. I mean, it was in the capital items in Parks and Recreation, and we put about 160,000 in the bond, that $7 million bond in the 2022. So that is actually spread into one of the capital projects. You know, for each one, Sherry, and one $160,000 plus I think a stage is in there. So that's actually in one of the projects, the bond, the $7 million for the road and $7 million for parks, which included at Holloway Sports Complex. So that
was the 22 bond?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been asking for this fitness equipment for a couple of years, and it has that ship has yet to come in. But and the only point I'm making is, if we have the money and no problem it's there, then why is it taking 2 years to get this stuff installed?
Yeah, I understand. I see your point.
Now, the other thing is, there are a number of parks throughout the city, and we need to have a plan for maintenance of those parks. We're going to need a plan for the maintenance of the new Holloway improvements out there. We need to have a plan, as you said, for vehicles, you know, a capital equipment, capital projects, whatever plan, and we need to know what that plan is. Again, I'll ask you to consider, and I'll ask you again somewhere along the line, so be thinking, what one project that I need to have done in my ward will get done next year with the mayor's help? And my guess is these other council members, I'm sure they have a project or two. It's just some of these things just never seem to get done.
Well, I understand, and again, a lot of ways that we've attacked this is when we talk to Parks and Rec. Sherry and Jamie put a spreadsheet together, every item, every inventory that's out there, and it's one you can see. You know, how many benches, how many pieces of swing sets or picnic tables, and that those dollars will be spread, and we'll make that available to everyone. So, you know, it's about 18. I mean, we got 18 parks. You know, so if we need to add pieces of equipment where we need to put it, I think there'll be a table that we can point out when will it be done and when, again, from the capital projects point, that's part of the improvements to, you know, that while we borrowed the $14 million.
How many employees do we have, Parks and Rec?
60, right?
Right now, you got 58 spots. 61 of some part-time.
61? That ought to be enough to cover 18.
Right now, I got 58 in the middle, in the current 4 vacancies, right, Sherry?
See if George and Felix have anything.
46.
I tell you, I threw all this in the trash can. I'll tell you that.
The,
Huh? I thought I did.
the other thing is, because we see contractual services and services in charge, that appears as a figure in the budget for each department, but I'm sure the department heads have an idea of what's included. That is, what those services and charges are and the contractual services are that they're paying for. We kind of lose track in all of that.
Right.
We don't do that day to day.
They can be reviewed, each one. I mean, that's a question to ask them as we get them before you.
Some of that's pop-up, those are repairs.
Right.
Some of it is routine schedule things like street sweeping.
Right. The other thing, the last time this was done that I can remember, David Fayard that's how long ago? David, the other David, He's the good David. No, he's the better David, anyway. But we asked for and received, and it was very enlightening, a line-by-line printout of the budget for each of the departments. That was, George, do you remember that? We got a printout, I don't know, it must have been like that,
Yes.
with all the departments,
Read it
line
all.
item by line item. I'd like for us each to have a copy of that, so that we can look at it and just get an idea, and maybe in terms of contractual services and those other things, it's going to be laid out there. And that may help us as we work towards that 5%, Mayor. Okay? We can help you get there.
Can you, we'll supply what you can digitally as fast as we can too. And if you want to
Okay.
burn some pieces of paper, because it's in that book right there.
It'd be great if we could get that Friday, just so we have, the weekend to look at, because that's going to be a lot of documentation to go through, but I think it would give us some better insight to the challenges that you face as we work through this budget.
Okay.
Mr. Lawrence, anything else?
No, that's enough today.
Mr. Guns, anything? Mr. McGilver? Yes, sir.
That's 4.
Work this phone right. Mr. Mayor, regarding the 50-plus unfilled slots, does that monies go from month to month?
Yeah, the budget is for the whole year. Those positions are budgeted for a whole year. If they're not, if somebody leaves, we don't eliminate the position, right? We just leave it there.
Not funded.
It's still, the budget is still funded.
So at the end of the financial year, where does that money go?
It goes in the fund, but the difference between actuals and actual revenue and actual expenses, which actual expenses, if people, we're not spending what we budgeted, that should be reflected in fund balance at the end of the year.
Okay.
And that's a lot of, I mentioned about a lot of that, those positions that we're starting right now, we're budgeting like we're going to fill all of them. And we can fill all them for the whole year, and that's the difference. We're not going to fill all of them in the whole year. We started about 40 positions, last year vacant in PD and some of that. But, if we could turn the switch and have all, everybody employed at the one time, then we would spend the whole budget. We're budgeting for the whole year. And that's why the difference is, it happened last year, where we had still unvacant or vacant positions that we budgeted for at the beginning of FY '23.
Point of reference to, if we're not spending all that in personnel money, we're not taking that money and spending it on
No,
other stuff, buying trucks or
yeah, by categories. Right,
bills. No,
yeah.
it stays in the personnel bucket.
You're not doing that. It stays in the personnel bucket. So basically, that's there, and then whatever's unspent just rolls over into the next year, right?
Well,
No, we rebudgeted.
new budget, it stays in fund
Right.
balance, goes back
Right, to be rebudgeted for the next year.
to balance.
I mean, that's the situation, not the situation. The case is that we're guessing where we're going to end, and we're guessing on how many we can fill as fast as we can. But this is the worst-case scenario. We're budgeting these positions. And if we could turn it on October 1, then we would expect those differences to be there. But we haven't been able to do it yet. I mean, we've always 20 or 30 vacancies
Right.
when the smoke clears.
Right. Diana will have an actual somewhere around October, November, I'm assuming, when she closes a year.
The last hit to, if you get, things are received in September,
Correct.
and we invoice it, and then gets to the
Right.
docket, which would be the last week in October. That's by law, we have to give them enough.
Okay.
Now, then at that point, then things that we have gotten on order, if a truck comes in that, we'll probably amend the budget for that amount that was in the prior year's budget. So that would then impact the end of the year.
Right,
Or beginning of
right,
the
and
year.
we do that every year as a matter of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Okay, try and tie up as many loose ends as we can. The fiscal '23 audit we've not gotten yet.
September.
What time in September? Well, we don't, okay, thanks. I know Diana pushes, and it's not up to her, or it'd have been here months ago. Okay,
I already said that the audit don't do us any good. You'll get that 3 or 4 months from now. That's a waste of money.
Well, Gadsby and some of these other,
You gotta have that audit
Our
done.
audit has been delayed
You
since
gotta have the audit
COVID.
done when we're doing this. So that's simple.
But an audit would have happened 12 months ago.
I don't
and
care
the
when it.
Time period would be irrelevant.
We wasting our money because all it does is no good. None. That's all right, none. And as far as the 50 spots, they're not gonna fill the 50 spots. That's $2 million, you can't do it. Because if you hire 50 people, you're gonna lose 50 people. You'll have 50 spots next month, next year. It just fluctuates like that all the time. One last question, Fofo, do we still have 4.2 million in economic development?
yeah, what was the cash? 4.2 million in the 13 fund.
Okay, just checking on that one too. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Diana, thank you for the work that you do, really. I know it's that time. I wake up at 2 a.m, just budget brain, I call it. I'm sure maybe everybody else is like that, or I'm Abby normal. But anyway, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move. Second.
By Mr. Lawrence
1, 2.
and by Mr. Guines, the dynamic duo. Any discussion? All in favor? We stand adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Miller time.
Right, I mean, it makes sense, something like that. Well, you can always come back and amend, just set it out and unallocate it. Right, right. But I was surprised to hear Mike say, oh, we don't move it from one place to another, we leave it there. You ought to be moving it and using it.